Go to badboymembership.com. You'll go from not getting what you want when it comes to you dealing with women to actually getting what you want, to being the guy women want to be with, women want to date, women want to have sex with. All you need to do is go to badboymembership.com.
But really to say, what is it that we need as Black people in order to be successful in this world? Well, you need some knowledge. You need some understanding on wealth. We need to understand how to have better relationships so we can get along with each other, because that's how you build wealth and power, is through group activity. But you can't have group activity if you can't get along, right? And then also health. We got people like Nathaniel Jordan, the Minister of Wellness, and others that are going to come in and talk about things like growing your own food and how to eat right and how to, just keep your immune system up. So it's our space, man, and we own it. We own everything that's happening there. Nothing's off limits, and it's going to be really good. It always is good. So if anybody wants to find out more about it, they can actually go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. So we're real excited. It's the last week of October, the 29th through the 1st, and it's going to be great.
Awesome. Now, you were talking about, you briefly mentioned Lizzo earlier. That was a video that came out. I guess she was like crying, addressing some people in the comment section that was saying, I guess she's saying racist and, other type of remarks about her. Can you speak on that? What you have on Lizzo?
Yeah. I felt real bad for her. My wife is a public, mental health expert, and she saw some things with that video, and I'm actually going to address that. I'm going to bring my wife in so she can kind of break some of that down. It didn't surprise me, because I think Lizzo deep down has an issue with herself. It may look like she was fighting me when she tweeted back at me, but she really wasn't fighting me. She's fighting herself, because I think even deep down, even Lizzo knows that what she's doing is going a little bit too far. I think that she's talented. I think she's beautiful and very capable. So my question is, given that you are that talented, you can sing like a bird and you can play the flute and all these other things, why does the twerking have to come with it? Why does all the buffoonery have to come with it? Why do you have to get on TikTok and act like you want to suck a man's penis in front of my children? Why does all that extra stuff have to come with it when you could just get out here and just be a great performer? Right. So with Lizzo, I think it's important for her to understand, I do not hate Lizzo. I love Lizzo. That's why I speak up on Lizzo. I love Lizzo as the little Black girl who's grown up into a Black woman who can be so much more. But what I don't love is I don't love the behavior. I don't love the racist corporations that are paying billions of dollars to push a narrative of the Black woman that is highly inappropriate and problematic. That's what I don't love. And so I felt bad for her. But remember, at the end of that video, she then steps up and says something like, anybody who doesn't like it can eat my pussy from the back, which is a scary concept in itself. But still, it's kind of like, okay, so you're remaining resilient. So while you're crying over the pressure, right? You're using, when you're crying over this pressure, but at the same time, you're choosing to defend the slave master. Well, then that means that we have no choice but to deal with you. And I wish it wasn't that way. Again, I told you, these big racist powers, what they do is they divide Black people. Lizzo and I should not be on opposite sides of the fence. We're supposed to be friends. But when the white man comes in with his money and his own structural racism, he divides the Black community. They do this all around the world. That's why the Hutus and the Tutsis were slaughtering each other in Rwanda, because they came in and divided the population in half and put one group ahead of the other. So in our community, they do the same thing. They take certain people, they elevate them, give them a big platform, give them a lot of money to promote nonsense. And then the field Negroes like myself are out here saying, what is that? And then we end up looking like haters or whatever. So I just, it makes me sad, but that's just what it is. And the last thing I'll say about Lizzo and her, her crying and everything was those are what I call Becky tears. Becky tears basically are something that are utilized to defend yourself from any form of accountability. It begs what the white liberals tend to do is anybody that calls out behavior that's debaucherous, racist, humiliating, fits into the minstrel show category, they'll immediately come back with these words. Like they'll come back with when you talk about Lil Nas X, they claim you're a homophobe. When you talk about Lizzo, twerking and sucking a man's penis in front of children, you're being sexist, or you're being a fatphobe, or Black men are filled with toxic masculinity. That's how the white media labels all these things. And so I think it's important that we educate ourselves and each other on their standard responses, so to ignore that shit when you're calling for basic accountability from these artists that know that what they're doing is wrong. Like Lil Nas X knows that there's nothing healthy or beneficial about having a bunch of naked ass black dudes in prison twerking like it's fucking Disneyland. Like, stop that, man. Like, they would never do that to the Jewish community. They would never have a bunch of Jewish guys naked in a concentration camp twerking. That would be unacceptable. So if it's unacceptable for them, it should be unacceptable for us. This is not complex. This is a very basic thing. So, the tune isn't going to change on this end. And at some point, I think ownership of black media will help us confront that. But I think also we need to kind of speak on it when we see these things.
Didn't Lil Nas X respond to you like on Twitter or something a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. Lil Nas X did respond, and I don't really think much of it, mainly because I'm 50, man. I'm not your peer. You're 23, 24 years old. You're young enough to be my son. My job is to be the father in the community and not to act like I'm a 23-year-old. I'm speaking from a different point of view. I get it. You're getting the money. You think these white folks love you when really they'll throw your black ass out in the street when the minute they're done with you. And we'll be waiting for you when that happens. I don't have any issue with Lil Nas X. My heart goes out to the community he comes from. I read his whole bio. Anytime an artist or anybody challenges me, I like to read their whole history to understand who they are and where they come from. So I read his whole story. And what he made me think about is I think about all the poor black kids in Atlanta who got thrown out by their families because they were gay. You got a lot of brothers out there like that. They told their parents they were gay, and the mama hit them upside the head with a Bible, and they told them that they were terrible people and put them out the house and all that, which I think is horrible. So as a result, they become what I almost refer to like the lost boys. Like they just out here, and next thing you know, this 14-year-old kid he meets some 40-year-old man who starts fucking him when he's a teenager, and you got an HIV epidemic all throughout that city. People don't talk about it, but it's real. And I personally think as black people, when you talk about things like Black Lives Matter, stop letting white people guide a Black Lives Matter conversation. The Black Lives Matter conversation should be one that is fully guided by black people, which means that we need to go to every space where black lives are in jeopardy and control that space. And so this is one of those areas where there's something happening. There's a crisis right there. That's the real pandemic, or that's one of them. And nobody talks about it because white folks got you focusing on somebody that got shot by a cop. Those other cases matter, but there are other things that matter much more. And I personally just think at the very least, the community needs to be guiding the conversation that relates to the community, not people from the outside, period.
My last question to you, Doc, is you dropped this a couple weeks ago while the Olympics was going on. It was in reference to Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg's commentary on the Olympics. They were doing some comedy stuff. I've seen maybe a clip or two. I thought it was pretty funny, but you weren't very amused by it. In fact, you had a lot of a very well put together written statement that you wrote on it. I'm going to read the first paragraph and allow you to elaborate. You said, "Black people are often typecast in our society, and we are mistakenly led to believe that being on TV or being famous is a definitive sign of success." Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, this is not anything against Kevin Hart or Snoop Dogg at all. I think that's fine. I just think that we need to pay attention to how so many of the black men in particular that we see on TV that we think are the most prominent, successful black men. Malcolm X talked about this. A lot of them are presented as clowns. For when black men are presented on national media, it's usually either because they are gay, or they are or funny, or whatever, or extremely ignorant, or one of those categories, right? If you fit a stereotype, and this goes all the way back to slavery, then you're gonna be in a certain space. You're gonna get a certain amount of prominence. If you don't fit the stereotype, then you don't exist. So 9 times out of 10, when you see black people in a role like that, you got to look at Snoop and Kevin Hart. They're not up there. They're not being presented as serious black men who can be serious about anything. They're presented as a comedy team, right? And that's fine, right? You need comedians. Comedians are great, but comedians are not supposed to be the most relevant members of your community. The most relevant people in the black community are leaders. Joe Biden is president of the United States. It's people like that. It's not. They're like the comedians are not leading the white community. The comedians and the performers are not leading the Jewish community. It is the black community that gets led by comedians rappers, athletes, or just people that fit into some sort of pre-existing narrative, right? You know, maybe you're a prominent Democrat or whatever, and that's a hard argument to make because people think you're attacking or you're dissing people. This is not a diss on Kevin Hart or a diss on Snoop Dogg. In fact, I don't even really address those individuals because if you want to have a conversation, if a puppet is saying something that you don't like, you don't go talk to the puppet. Right? I don't want to talk to the puppet. I want to talk to the puppet master. You know, I want to talk to the person who's got his hand up your ass and is telling you what to say. Because talking to the puppet does nothing, right? So I'm not really talking to Snoop or Kevin Hart or Lizzo or anybody. I want to talk to the person who's paying them to do what they do, because that's where the insidious white supremacy, racism, whatever you want to call it, is occurring.